All right. Good evening, everybody. Hope everyone's had a good, nice weekend. It's been hot down here. But yeah, what did we do this weekend? Not too much. Did some house cleaning, all that kind of good stuff. So yeah, kind of a quiet weekend. We had a birthday party. That was about it. But just your usual stuff. So nice and relaxing, not too bad, nothing too busy, which is always nice. But yeah, I hope everyone's getting ready for Father's Day. That's coming up next weekend, I do believe. Yeah. Good evening, Styles. Welcome everybody. As always, welcome to Sunday Night Prep, where we take a look at the broader market and we'll kind of work our way down. Maybe look at a few stocks that I'm looking at for the week ahead. As always, if you have any ticker requests or any symbols you want me to look at, feel free to shout them out and we'll definitely take a look at them. But as always, NVIDIA, yeah, we'll definitely take a look at NVIDIA. The semiconductors, man, powerful stuff. But all right, as always, let's start out. First thing I want to talk about is, make sure you are checking your longer term time frames. I know that's kind of boring, but definitely be sure to take a look at your weekly and your monthly longer term time frames. And if you do observe some of those time frames, you will start to see that the market is starting to paint a pretty strong picture going into the summer months. And we've seen that this market is firing on pretty much all cylinders, where every day you have several mega cap tech stocks that go up 2 to 3% on any given day. And if they don't, that's when you start to see this rotation into some of the small caps, which we've observed. Philip Green, MVIS, yeah, we'll take a look at that one, man. That's a throwback name for me. Yeah, but anyway, you get this nice big move off of big tech, and then when big tech is taking a breather, we see some of that rotation in the IWM, and we did talk about the IWM last week, and that was actually a big player for us last week. So we're looking forward to the market continuing to have some resiliency. And like I said, small caps they are holding up their gains, and you have days where you get like Tesla up 5%, and that'll hold the market up, or Apple's up 3%, and that'll do good there. And then you have days where things are kind of flat, and then the Russell is up 3%, and everything underneath the hood seems pretty good. And the monthly charts definitely suggest some good action. You're playing options on MVIS, Philip. I'm curious. Are you doing cover calls? Are you doing like the wheel strategy out there? So with all that in mind, keep in mind that this week we do have a lot of stuff going on this week. So everything is looking fantastic. We got good market breadth. We're starting to see some good rotation. Sure, things are kind of crazy extended. We're at these important levels and important resistance levels. So, with that being said, we have inflation data this week. We got the Eurozone decision. We got the Fed. We got the FOMC. We got rate decision. Are they going to raise it another 25 basis points? Are they going to stay put and keep them where they are? We'll see. I give it a 50-50 shot right now. If on the rate hike, I see an argument for both scenarios there. When we look at some of the internal data, we know that the Dallas Fed survey pretty much came out and said there's nothing good on the horizon, and there's been a lot of orders being canceled, and the order volume has stalled out, and that the Dallas Fed is seeing a massive slowdown. They didn't say like just a little bit of a slowdown. They used the word massive slowdown. So I think that's a very strong word to be using, especially when it comes from one of the major Fed. And the survey also fell for a 12th straight month with Quote, businesses are preparing for a recession by looking for ways to cut back, which in some ways works to create a self-fulfilling prophecy. We also saw that the Chicago PMI collapsed. China manufacturing PMI fell below 50. Once you get those readings below 50, you'll see that is a signal of contraction. And then we also noted that the US PMI and ISM surveys fell again. So, and then you also have the whole OPEC plus and yada yada. Rising gas prices are maybe coming to the pump later on in the summer months. That may take some time. So then now we got the CPI and PPI reports that are due out on the 13th and 14th, which could possibly throw a wrench into things. If inflation comes out, kind of sticky, which we kind of already believe that, inflation has been kind of sticky out there in some certain areas, even though we are seeing a cool down in others. They're still kind of up there, and they haven't responded to the rates as aggressively as they want to. So, it really is a 50-50. I do think that we do get a pause, but I'm not discounting the idea of another 25 basis point rate hike just for the purposes of, insurance. Maybe they'll say, okay, we're kind of there, but we're not there just yet. So they may try that 25. I'm not, going to throw that idea out the window because it makes perfect sense for them to possibly do that. So, with that being said, there's a lot to consider. Don't try to, bang your head up against the wall and lose sleep over it. Leave that for me if you want to. But, the most important thing to have and to understand is where are we in the key scheme of things? What are the key levels that we can look at to either march ahead or to, maybe cool down a little bit. Like I said, tech has been on an absolute tear. They're like up plus 100 bajillion ATR levels. That's not an actual number, but they are up there. So could we get a possible pullback? Sure. But at the same time, things can keep going. And I'll give you another chart out there in just a second. Is especially if you're looking at those monthly charts, you can see that there's a lot of juice in some of these names, especially the one I'll give you, and that is Apple. But before we do that, let's kind of jump in here. Let's talk about the SPY, the SPY, if you want to look at the SPX as well, whichever floats your boat. And, as we noted in last week's session, and one that we've talked about all week long, is the importance of this 430, 432-ish zone. And that is the 618 retracement from the all-time high at 480 to the bear market low at about 350. Now, the 618, this is a very important level. Think of it when you bounce a basketball, when you throw it up in the air and it drops and it bounces, it's not going to bounce all the way up to where you threw it at. It's going to bounce, and most likely you'll get a 618. So this is the first major spot here for bears to really kind of dig in to the ground and say, okay, this is it. This is where we either hold the line or we just tuck in tail and run. So this 430, I can't stress it up. It is a very important retracement level. But aside from that, aside from this very important resistance level, if we can get a close above it, like we have on the NASDAQ, then yes, the SPY can definitely move even higher. So we have to clear this 430, 432 zone and march our way up towards about 450. But when you're looking at the smaller time frames and even your higher time frames, there's a lot of juice that still seems to be here. So for SPY, break above 432 is what we're looking for as for the next leg higher. If we do get a deeper pullback, I do think that the daily 21 is a pretty important level. That's down there at about 421, 420 zone to hold as our support level. But I'm not undercutting, some of these other smaller time frames where we've developed this past week. If we zoom in here, that is definitely going to be right here at about your 425, 424 zone. So you got some interesting levels here, 425, and then about 424, and then your dynamic support of the daily 21 EMA down at the 421 level. So that's going to be our support. If we do happen to get like a deeper, way deeper pullback, which I don't think we'll get, and we do get a close below the daily 21, maybe we'll have to reevaluate and see where things progress from there. But if we do get a deeper pullback, be sure to have some list of maybe a shopping list out there that, okay, I wasn't able to grab so and so at these extreme levels. Now that I got a deeper pullback, I'm definitely looking to buy into something like this, whether it's, Microsoft or Apple, Nvidia, AMD, whatever. If we do get a deeper pullback, have a shopping list ready. I still think this is a really good market to buy the dip in. In fact, we are 20% off the bear market low there, which from a technical standpoint means that we are in a new bull market. We still got some work to do, but from the technical standpoint, hooray, celebrate, party, whatever. But don't let emotions take over. You always want to keep a clean level on your head, and you know trade with the levels, and don't buy when things are so elevated. Wait for that dip. We've seen that we get these one little dip moves and it looks like we're gonna get a deeper pullback and the bulls just buy it right back up and send things higher. So the resiliency of this market is incredibly impressive, and it is definitely noteworthy. So, and coming into monthly OPEX, we know that there's actually still a lot of puts out there. There are a ton of puts out there. In fact, this is probably, if you probably put the data together, and actually I've seen the data, there's the argument that there are more shorts in this market right now than when we were in the COVID period. Wrap your head around that. There are more shorts right now than there were during COVID. Now, there's a lot of insurance going into monthly OPEX. There's a lot of insurance going into the CPI and the Fed. So all that will expire. We'll get all that out of the way. If we do get a spike in volatility, I'm looking for it to come in next week when you start to get more and more repositioning, maybe some more profit taking, and just some rebalancing going on. But after the end of, I think what's happening right now is probably a little bit more priced in. Everybody's hedged, market makers are hedged properly, and so forth. So if we do get, some sort of volatility, I think it's going to come next week. It's not going to come this week. We'll have to see what plays out, of course. So, we'll take it day in and day out, especially as we get in those inflation data and as we get to the Fed and quad witching on Friday. But from what I've seen and what I look at, everything seems to be pretty good. We'll just have to look at it going into next week and beyond as we get away from all these puts expiring. So let's get that out of the way, and then we can look ahead. But yeah, anyway, moving on to the Nasdaq. All right, so 432 on the SPY. Let's take a look at the Nasdaq. Now, what's impressive here on the Nasdaq? We've talked about the importance of the 618 retracement level, and here you have it on the Nasdaq right here at 350. It's a nice even number. But look, we've had 2 weekly closes above the 618. We've completely knocked bears off their high horses, and they're gone. So here we are. The tech continues to be phenomenal. 2 sequential bar closes above the 618 at the 350 level. Sure, it is extended. I think everybody and their mother can agree on that. But it doesn't really matter until it does. Currently, we have all of the active positive signals here. There's not really any signs of weakness on this thing, and tech has really become agnostic on what rates are doing. If the rates are up, generally speaking, that would mean tech is down. But we've seen this crazy wackadoo market where even though the rates have gone up, tech is up. Rates are down, tech is up. Rates are flat, tech is up. It doesn't even matter anymore. Rates can go sideways and not do anything, and tech can continue to go up. So tech really is probably your main play here. And if we take a look here on the monthly chart, you can see what is shaped up here is this squeeze here. My drawing tools are kind of slow today, so I apologize. I don't know why. But if you look here on the squeeze, you can still see that, this is still, in the yellow. It's switched from red to yellow. This thing still has some juice in it. We haven't even gone into the positive direction on the squeeze indicator. So this signals that, yeah, things can definitely progress higher if they so want to. And we also have active uh, positive thrust signals here. And what that means is, thrust is just a measurement of momentum. You can use whatever momentum indicator that you have, whether that's MACD or some kind of oscillator that you prefer. But looking at my indicator, this still gives us a nice little mid-level up arrow. So we do have plenty of signals to suggest that, yeah, even though we are overly extended and tech is hot, tech can still remain hot, especially based upon the higher time frames. Can we get a pullback on the daily? Yeah, most certainly we can. Will we? Yeah, sometime we will get a deeper pullback, and that's what I've said. If we do get a deeper pullback, have a shopping list ready to go, because things still look like they want to progress forward. But at the same time, like I said, let's don't get complacent. Let's, always keep a keen eye on things. And, if we do get an even deeper pullback than greater than expected, then we'll reevaluate and go from there. But, as far as everything else goes, this is pretty darn strong. And especially if we look at, what I talked about earlier, Apple. Yeah, Apple all-time highs, just absolutely a beast of a move. But if you see here on the squeeze histogram on the monthly chart, this thing is still in a monthly squeeze. This thing can still, rip face higher. And it's all there. We got a new product out there, the AR, no matter if it's cost $3,500 or whatnot, it's still, pretty impressive technology that they're coming out with. They have good earnings. It's one of the biggest companies in the world. And, investors love having Apple in their portfolio. So, I mean, this thing, sure, it can continue to push ahead into the summer months. So, this is why I'm telling you, take a look at, some of these larger term timeframes and get a feel of what the possible bigger picture is. Cause, that'll, kind of rock your world a little bit. It's almost eye popping that Apple, you're sitting here, okay, it's made an enormous move off the 126 low all the way up to new all time highs, new lifetime highs. There's nothing bearish about a stock making new lifetime highs. There's not. You can't make a bearish argument about if a stock is making new lifetime highs. There's just not. This thing is on a roll. It can continue to push ahead if she so desires. But uh, you know, the evidence is there. So, all right, let's move on. So the cues, what we want to see here on the Nasdaq is we want to see 350 to continue to hold. Obviously, that is the important zone there. And you do got a nice little possible exhaustion candle here. Nice little doji shooter. If we do get a continuation move to the downside, which right now futures are kind of flat, so everything's kind of stable there. If we do get a push down, watch for 350 to hold. If 350 doesn't hold, then yeah, things can pull back to the daily 21. And every time since then that we've had a pullback to the daily 21, that seems to be a nice buy dip opportunity. So definitely be looking out for that possible idea. And then of course, if we just continue to break above this channel, above like 357.70, then sure, we can be looking at a new push towards, maybe even 370. So be on the lookout for that. Break above 360, 357.70. Look for, on a day-to-day basis, taking that look at the ATR, but you can see the weekly ATR is about 12 points. So if we do happen to get that move, yeah, 360, 370 is not out of the picture there. It all just depends. And you still have good volume coming into this thing. So tech continues to be impressive. Now let's move on to the small caps. Now the small caps, this one has been the market, laggard for forever. It hasn't done anything, mainly because, well, the regional bank crisis, and that seems to be petering out a little bit. We're starting to see good data points. We've kind of noted this before. The IWM, this was a great play for us this past week. We took the breakout of 180. We had an inside day on Monday, followed by this massive move on Tuesday, and then Wednesday we got an even follow through move, and then we just kind of digested from here. So if you do want to measure this move, it's 170 to 180. So that's a 10-point measured move. That would put you up at an overhead target of about that 190, 191, 50 levels. So that's how you'd measure out that move. But everything still looks pretty good for the small caps. Like I said, it's kind of taking a little bit of a breather here Thursday and Friday. Can things come back and retest 180? Sure, that can definitely happen. And if we do get a test of 180, and not, am I going to buy some more IWM contracts? Probably. But if we do get a break below 180 and we close down here at 178, then I'll be more skeptical that this is a fake out move, and then we just go back into the prior box. So that would be discouraging. We definitely want to see the rotation continue, and we want to see the market breadth continue and get that good, healthy rotation in the overall market. So IWM, sure, if we do get a break below 184, yeah, we can come back and retest 180. That does make sense. I just don't want to see it close below that 180 mark. I definitely don't want to see that daily close below that. I want to see this thing continue to blast off and at least hit that 190, 190, 150. Once we get above 190, 150, you're talking about 195 and back into the 200 range. So, you see it here on these purple lines, this 203 and 213 level. That's going to be a big spot there on the weekly chart. But yeah, for IWM, fantastic play last week. Would love to get in another position here on if we get a pullback, great. But if not, if we take a move above the high at 188, then yeah, I'm definitely looking for a move towards 190, 190, 150. Makes a lot of logical sense there as far as the IWM goes. Moving on to the Dow. The Dow, has 30 names to it. It's at an interesting spot. It's actually kind of more interesting to me at this moment in time than the IWM, because if we start to see some rotation away from tech, then I would definitely start to look at the diamonds, just because the DIA has some good signals to work with. If we can get it, there is this interesting, technical theory that we can look at. If my drawing pen will work. Any day now. Yeah, I don't know why it's so slow. Some days it's works perfect, other days it doesn't. All right, so here's your left shoulder, here's your head, here's your right shoulder. That's a nice little inverse head and shoulders. So all we have to do is really kind of clear this shenanigans right here at the 343 mark, and then off we go to the races. So this is actually a very huge pattern, and it could have some really good potential. I'm watching the volume here. It has to break out though. We'll see if we can get that. Underneath it all, we have a weekly squeeze down here. We got some bullish thrust to go along with it. There's also, looking pretty good here on the daily, also with bullish momentum, so to speak here. So looking for 338 to kind of hold and build, and it's done a good job on that so far. And also, if you look at the monthly, there's also a really really good potential here if we do get into some of that market rotation. Now with the Dow, you got to watch things like Goldman, Boeing, UNH, United Healthcare, because the Dow is kind of in its own little weird setup. The way that the Dow is weighted is essentially weighted by price, which is kind of terrible. So the bigger the price is, the higher the weight is. And right now, UNH, I believe, is the highest weighted in the Dow. So pay attention to names like UNH. Boeing is definitely on our watch list going into this week. In fact, we played it uh, twice. Did we play it once or twice last week? I can't remember. I know we took profits on it. Let's see. We had a put credit spread on it last week. We took profits on that. But look, you had this nice little Darvis box here forming, and you got a nice measured move between 192 and 220, 221 on Boeing. If you look at the weekly chart, it's pretty much like a nice, really long bull flag here. So if we get this breakout on Boeing, I mean, this thing is, uh, you know, you know, not to sound corny or anything, but it's, taking flight. So Boeing, this looks good. Now on the opposite side of the spectrum, if you're a bear, you can say, well, 220, that's a pretty big resistance level too. So we can also short it that way. And yeah, you are correct. But if the market is going higher, then most likely, the overall market's going higher, and then you're just kind of betting against the motion of the ocean there. But as far as Boeing goes, but yeah, that is definitely an idea. You can short it at 220 and see if you can run it back down to at least the daily 21 at about 208, 207 levels. But if Boeing does lift off, that's going to help the overall DIA, and this can definitely have a nice little move up to, I got these levels here at 244 and even 250. So we'll see what happens here on Boeing. I really love this setup. It looks good. We got positive thrust on it. You got a nice little squeeze both on the weekly and the daily. So I really like the looks of Boeing. We'll see what happens, of course. And then let's see. As far as everything else goes, everything else is kind of where they were last week. So the HYG, the junk bonds, the junk of the junk, this remains, doing okay. If we get this above 76, then yeah, night night bears. Off you go, dynamite, pretty much. Crude oil. Yeah, we can talk about crude oil. Yeah, I'm going to come back to all that, guys. Don't worry, I'm just kind of going through my notes real quick for you, and then we'll dive into the individual tickers. Crude oil. If we take a look at crude oil, yeah, you know what? OPEC Plus, they did their extra barrel cuts. Who cares? Despite another OPEC Plus cut, this thing has not moved at all. I still don't see any reason to be in oil names in particular, unless you want to ride the wave with Warren Buffett and Oxy. But as far as crude oil goes, she still has to get above 82.64 here. That's the big key level here, and it definitely has to get above the daily 200. So at least get above the daily 200 and then get above 82.64. You got a daily squeeze forming here. You got a little thrust to the downside. Even the weekly, you got a daily squeeze, but you don't have any kind of reversal pattern playing out here in crude oil. I don't see any reason to be in any oil names at this point in time. Both of these squeezes, and based upon the momentum, looking like they want to fire short. And if that's the case, that can definitely push down to the lows there. So with that being said, that things can continue, but we're at this interesting point in the market where we got a lot of data coming up. We got the Fed, we got Powell, we got the Eurozone decision, we got Great Britain, we got Bank of Japan this week. There's a lot of data points to kind of go over there. We got OPEC's quad witching, a lot of interesting stuff. So keep your head on a swivel, and we'll kind of take things as they come for sure. And then we'll get into some of the tickers. I've already mentioned some of my favorites. Definitely Boeing this week. I'm taking a look at Boeing. I really like Walmart as well. Yes, Walmart is on my personal do not trade list for certain reasons, but Walmart is right here at this key level at 154.64. If we get a push above that key level, then yeah, 160 is definitely in play here on Walmart, and it's doing quite the opposite of what Target is doing, which Target is dying and bleeding a slow gross death. It's 130. If we take a look, let me grab this chart here on this side on my other screen. Just so I can get that going. Let's see. Looking at target here on the weekly. Oh, I guess I could put it over there. My bad. This is on trading view. Looking here at target on the weekly, you can see you don't have much. You still got some wiggle room here. What is low can still go lower, and that's definitely the case with target here. Once you get to this like 125, 115 demand zone, this could be a pretty interesting value buy here in target. When we think of target and everything that's going on in the world, yeah, whatever your opinion is on that, sure, this is a potential good place to buy. There's nice demand here, and you could get a nice little value buy. So I'm keeping an eye on target if it does want to continue lower. If you can try to nibble here, but don't go full port on anything like this. Especially, you definitely want to consider dollar cost averaging and understanding when you are wrong. If a trade doesn't work out, know when you're wrong, know when to hop out and move on. So a target, if I do want to nibble here, I'll nibble here, and then if it continues to fall, I'll just easily hop out and brush my shoulders off and move on. But yeah, we got a nice little supply here. Excuse me, demand down here at 125, 115. But yeah, she can still creep down just a little bit lower. It's trading at about 127. So it's got about 2 to maybe 10 more points left in the gas tank there on target. So we'll keep an eye on target for sure. I like Walmart to the upside. Caterpillar was a good play last week. We'll keep an eye on this one again this week. It's right here at a resistance level at about 240. If we do get a break above 240, look for a move towards 250, 256. An interesting one here. Especially if you are a smaller cap player here. Uber has been incredibly strong. I mean, if there's this thing looks absolutely crazy strong. Closed at the highs on Friday. You got some levels of interest up here about the 42, 45 area. Yeah, dip buy opportunities on Uber. Let's see here. We've already talked about Apple, Dexcom. I grabbed some shares here on Dexcom on Friday. I'm looking for a breakout move above 125.55 for push towards 134.76 and all the way up towards 143 and 150. The options chain here on Dexcom is kind of meh. So I just went ahead and grabbed shares on this, but you got a nice little Darvis box play. Of course, we still need to break out. So if we do break out, I'm probably going to add more and ride the wave up. So keep Dexcom on your radar. And then, of course, I'll hop out, down here if I'm wrong about 115, maybe even, definitely fully wrong if we do get a move all the way down to 109. I don't want to be holding the bag there. Let's see. Another interesting one is SIBO. Yeah, SIBO, the Chicago Board of Options and all that kind of good stuff. SIBO breaking above 140.82. That would be an all-time high breakout there for SIBO. I'm looking at that one to push ahead. Nothing too crazy going on there. I mean, this thing just looks incredible. But all right, let's see. We also played Delta last week. Delta and Boeing. I mean, these guys are crazy good. Delta had a nice little breakout move, nice momentum. Let's see, that one we can probably keep an eye on if we do get a dip buy opportunity. Obviously, we're watching Apple. TSM is at an interesting spot, especially the weekly. You got this potential 3-bar play here. Needs to break above 105.25 to push higher if semiconductors want to participate. Yeah, I'm keeping a close eye on TSM there. As far as Nvidia goes, I know I had some questions here about Nvidia. Let me see. Styles just says Nvidia. So Nvidia, yeah, this weekly chart is just absolutely bonkers. New highs at 419.38. It's just digesting at this moment in time. If we do get a break below 375, sure, you can try to play some puts, but this gap should hold. I think we're just digesting through price and time here. Let the moving averages kind of catch up. But if things want to aggressively pull back, I think you do get a nice little value buy, especially if you do catch it down here at about the 350 mark. But yeah, Nvidia super strong. The weekly chart still looks good. You even got another light blue bar there on the squeeze indicator. You still don't have any negative thrust signals. I mean, look, this thing has been bullish, since our first signal down here back in January 6th. I mean, this thing's just absolutely insane. Nvidia, yeah, it looks impressive. Do I want to buy Nvidia up here? Especially from a long-term portfolio thing, one thing, investment opportunity, probably not. I'd like to wait on a bigger dip opportunity, and even so with AMD. AMD, yeah, I mean, this thing is just absolutely insane. And if you look at the options chain, it gets even more insane. There's so much premium that's expiring this week in AMD. It gives you a headache. But AMD, if we get a move above 127.40, sure, we can easily, this thing can easily push towards 130. The weekly chart looks great. If we happen to break down below 116, sure, you could take a little bit of a bearish trade there and try to fill that gap towards 108. And especially with all those options expiring, if we do get, if the market makers do want to, shove things down, then AMD, that's got some juicy movement here. Same thing with Nvidia, but the semiconductors they're so strong. Even if we have one day of selling, I mean, it just easily gets bought back up. We had a move here, opened up at, well, had a high of 147 and closed at 144, and then we bought it right back up. So it's kind of been the same story here. Sell day, red, green day, sell day. We'll see if we get a move below, but I'd probably watch that 143 level on Nvidia to push on down to at least the daily 21 at about 139, 140 level. But that's SMH. I'm sorry. But yeah, if you want to do SMH, there you go. Let's see, Nvidia. Yeah, if we break down below 374, sure, you can try to play that. But I would be careful because they just keep on buying the dip aggressively, and you can see it on the tape day in and day out. It's even in my notes, I have this question in bright red colors. It says, "Do you really want to be a bear here?" We'll see what happens. Let's see. I know on the Philip, I'm sorry, on YouTube, you asked about Mavis at the beginning. So if we take a look at Mavis, well, I call it Mavis, but it's Microvision. Microvision, this thing's insane. If you are a penny stock player, this thing has been on an absolute rare from $1 or excuse me, $2 all the way up to 8. Insane move. If we do get a break below this channel here at about 642. Sure, you get a move down here back to $5, but if you start to break back above $8.20, then yeah, you could be onto something a little bit bigger here towards that $10 level. 10 will be a psychological level, and of course, that is also the prior next swing high there at about $9.95, $10. But as far as MVIS, man, this thing is going to bring back memories for a lot of people because we played it back in the day, back when it did all this shenanigans. Be careful out there. It's definitely a news driven name, probably definitely a high short interest name. Don't bet the house on any of this, and have a stop loss well equipped, and respect that stop loss. Don't try to buy up here and it comes tanking back down to $2 on you, like we see time and time again on these penny names that get on these absolutely crazy runs, and then they just come back down to earth. I don't know what the news is. Obviously, there's some kind of catalyst here. Also, probably some short squeezing. I do not play options on penny stocks. I mean, that's just a sure way to just hand your money over to the market maker and say bye and wave at it as you hand it over to him, and you pay his kids' college tuition, not yours. Don't play options on penny stocks. Play the shares and play it that way. If you are playing options on some of these penny stock names, I'd suggest at least do a wheel strategy where you can own several hundreds of shares, and then you can sell covered calls to the people who are trying to ride this thing to Moonland for whatever reason. But but of course you got to be careful with that too. So always understand the risk reward situation on that as well. So whatever's going on here with MVIS, just know that don't try to bet the house and try to catch the next big one. Sure, throw a little bit in there and see what happens, but don't throw in your bill money just to try to win the lottery. All right, let's see. That's all I got. That's all I got to say about that. You have a 380 Nvidia put for the yeah. It's hard to swing puts. I definitely like day trading at this point, just because we're so extended. But yeah, I do have some swings on the table, but those I'm not going crazy with it. But let's see. You have a Nvidia 380 put. Yeah, I mean, I think you probably jumped the gun a little bit. There's no major signs of reversal here. If we do break the low here and get a close, if we had a weekly close on this candle below 378.22, that would kind of make sense. But now you need a weekly close below this new low to make it, make sense. And if you do get that, then sure, we can retest the previous all-time high at 346, 350. So Nvidia, yeah, it does have some interesting spots here to work with, but you want to wait for confirmation, whether that is a breakdown on huge volume, a daily close below this level, or even a weekly close on this level. But don't try to front run. That's how an even further short squeeze can happen. Let's see. All right, so we've kind of gone over. Let's see. I think Nvidia MVIS. Let's see here. Want to be, Starbucks, SBUX, Roku. I do is very interesting. Say the least. Starbucks. Yeah, you're at an interesting spot on Starbucks. If you want to try something here, yeah, it makes sense. This is where a nice little demand zone is on Starbucks right here at about that 96 level. But also know when you are wrong. If things do start to break down and you get a close below that 96 level, yeah, things can get a little bit uglier. This thing doesn't have much until you hit at least that 89, maybe even the 83 zone here on Starbucks. So yeah, definitely got to be mindful here. If things get nastier, they can, and it can get nastier even quick. So Starbucks, I like it. If it breaks down for me, I'll be looking at puts if this thing does break down below 96.35. Another name I do like is Shopify has been quite the resilient name out there. You had this nice weekly breakout a few weeks ago, about a month ago. And then ever since then, you've just been in this holding pattern. You've been consolidating through price and time. And now we're just looking to see if this thing can break back above 64 and push on higher, and we get the next leg up. You do have a light blue uptick here on the squeeze that negates, the slowing momentum on the prior tick. If we do get another light blue move here on the squeeze histogram, then that could signal that the squeeze is definitely going to continue to fire along, and we just need to ride the wave on that. So Shopify continues to look pretty impressive. Also, let's see. I know we talked about Roku in the chat earlier as well. Roku's just at an interesting spot. It's right at a key resistance level. Ideally, I would like to see it break above the 73, 76 zone. Once we do that, things can get a lot more interesting here. You do got some positive thrust signals, and overall, you're holding up. You're holding up, but you're not dying either. So you're in this top end of the range. We'll see if we can get a continuation move, or if we continue to consolidate just a little bit more before pushing higher. So Roku still probably has a little bit of work to do. I would like to, it does have some volume coming in, so that's good to see. So we'll keep an eye on that. And Rivian, I know it was brought up in chat. Rivian is being kicked off the NASDAQ 100. Bye-bye. And they are being replaced by I think, ON. So yeah, Rivian, we'll see how that news is digested. It could be a nothing burger. They could react negatively about it. What's interesting is Rivian was placed on the Nasdaq 100 uh, at the end of December, so they haven't even been in the Nasdaq for a long time. Rivian, they make some cool trucks. But for me, Rivian, if I want to play, some kind of bullish play here, I need it to get back above 1584. You can see where 1584 was prior support. Once we broke down that level, it is now has been acting as new resistance. So break above 1584, that would be good. But it looks like it still wants to push lower here, maybe even re-attempt the lows at 1168. I still have some bearish signals here. Overall, this thing just looks gross. I mean, this thing hasn't had. I mean, we've had, our negative momentum signal here back in November, back when the price, that's when we got our first breakdown below 27. And this thing has been on a move lower since then. We don't have an up signal to even reverse those negative thrust signals way back when. So, I still have these targets down here to $6, even to 46 cents. So yeah, Rivian's got some, she's got some explaining to do. Let's see. Lucid, I see Lucid on your thing there. Yeah, Lucid, they got some battery issues, some fire burning car issues from what I understand. I don't know what's going on with Lucid. Yeah, Lucid, you're right here at the prior all-time low at $6.09, $6. Yeah, don't it's kind of scary. Back to micro penny land you go, I guess. Let's see. Duke. Yeah, he bought Tesla puts, Meta puts, Microsoft. All right, then. All right. Any questions out there? Take a request, throw them out. Feel free to throw them out there. We got about a few minutes left. You don't want to. Microsoft and Oracle. Yeah, Oracle, Oracle's got earnings tomorrow after the bell. Dun, dun, dun. All right, this is Microsoft. Microsoft's actually had a little bit of a deeper pullback compared to some of its counterparts here. We even had a tap at the daily 21. This has been a while since we've had a revisit of this key spot here of the dynamic support, the trend momentum, moving average. Now, Microsoft, I don't want to see it crack below this 320.50 mark. That's the wick of this here. If you do, you get a nice little gap fill towards 315. Now, this is a pretty good, buy the dip spot. But looking at this weekly candle, that's not it's not a pretty weekly candle there to work with. So if Microsoft wants to give us a little bit more of a dip, then heck yeah, I'm a buyer at this daily 50 at about 306, 307 mark. Hands down by the dip there for Microsoft. AI is not going anywhere. They're leading the way. I don't know if y'all try to use Google's Bard, but it's nowhere close in comparison to Microsoft and ChatGPT. So Microsoft looks pretty darn good here. It's given us a little bit of a deeper pullback. So, if we do want to play some downside, play some puts or some defensive puts here, yeah, watch that break below 321, 320. You get a gap fill. And then I'm looking for a big hold here at the daily 50 simple moving average at about that 306 level, which the last time we did get a breakdown below the daily 21, we almost came down and kissed the daily 50. And then we had that gap up on earnings. So yeah, Microsoft, long-term name, it's fantastic. They're not going anywhere. They make a lot of money, and they're actually kind of leading the way there as far as the AI goes. I don't really understand the Activision deal, to be honest with you. Yeah, I don't know anybody who plays Call of Duty. I mean, it's not really. They've tried to reinvent the game like 10 different times, and it's just the same old game. And they can't innovate like Fortnite does. I don't even play Fortnite, but Fortnite is always constantly having new things come out like on a weekly basis. And, anyway, I'm probably just rambling at that point. But yeah, the whole deal with Activision, I think that's weird. It's a weird grab for me. So we'll see. Fundamentally undervalued with a. Okay, are you talking about Activision or are you talking about what you posted there? But yeah, Microsoft. Let's see what happens. If you do get a hold here, it's an interesting buy here. We'll see if it can shoot back up to the highs. And then, of course, the next value buy is down here at the daily 50, the rising daily 50. That's another key thing, too. What are your moving averages doing? Are they all rising? Are they positively stacked? Are they declining? Are they just crisscrossing back and forth and playing hopscotch with each other? What is your overall trend? Moving averages help us read the erratic price action in front of us. So, are the moving averages rising? Are they falling? Are they sideways? That'll help you determine what is going on within the price. And I always recommend use at least, if you are using moving averages, use at least 3. I think if you use more than 5, I think you're just getting way too much information overload. You should have at least a short-term moving average for trend and momentum, and then you should have a medium-term moving average, and then of course, which your medium term will also be your reversion to the mean trading style, and then a longer-term moving average to help determine what is the longer-term trend. So anyway, Microsoft. Yeah, interesting spot here at that 325 level. If we break down below that, it could make an interesting bearish day trade. And then, of course, if you do get that move all the way down to 306, then I think that's a pretty interesting value buy at the daily 50 moving average. Moving on to Oracle. Oracle is just absolutely blowing off into outer space. This has been, a stock dad pick since the end of last year when Penny discussed this one with us. Yeah, Oracle has been a beautiful play here throughout the entire year. It's at all-time highs. Not a lot of people have been talking about this one, which is kind of crazy, but we've been taking notice of it and we've been playing it. But yeah, Oracle 110.15. They do have earnings tomorrow morning, or excuse me, tomorrow afternoon after the bell. That pretty much throws out technical analysis. So you need to do your research on, how they are looking numbers wise, what has the previous earnings done. You can see here on their last earnings report, though. We'll just observe this one. Their last earnings report, they actually gapped down and then went on a rip roar tear. So, Oracle, whatever's going on here, they're doing something right. I had shares, sold it, I think you're around the 100 area. I wish I held on to some runners there because this thing has just been an absolute beast of a move. It's been one of the best trades out there in the year. So yeah, I would like to see a pullback and buy the dip. You can see every single time we've really, I'm cleaning up these lines just so you can clear the drawing set. Every time that we've come down to the daily 21 or even really ridden it, it's just marched on higher. Here you got to move up to 103, had a nice pullback, and then you've used the daily 21 EMA as a nice launching pad into new all-time highs. Oracle, very, very bullish indeed. Hitesh wants to know about Square. Yeah, Square's kind of a fun little name here. It's not doing much. It's not doing much. If you look at this weekly chart here, let me kind of zoom in here. Left-hand side, here's your weekly chart. Just ignore. Actually, we can just remove that line and we'll remove this line. Okay, so looking here on Square. Square is trading in the range between 51 and 90. You got a nice little Darvis box going on here. You're not even quite in the middle of this range here. Yeah, you're just kind of in the middle. You haven't done anything all year, which is kind of sad because you have names like Apple, Microsoft, Tesla, Nvidia, Netflix, Meta moving, and then you have Square Block. I think that's what they call it nowadays. Block. Just doing absolutely nothing. You've moved. And in fact, you are pretty much right where you started at the beginning of the year. Here's your January candle, and you're right here. 6 months later, half a year on one of the most craziest, I would say, craziest recession, not recession, question mark, economic situation that we've been in. Square's just not done anything. As far as a daily time frame goes, you can see here you're still below the daily 200, which is this red line on the right hand side of the chart. Yeah, it needs to at least get above 68, 69. Once you get above that, I think you can try to ride the wave here. One thing about Square or Block is it's one of those things is it's not breaking out higher, but it's also not dying either. So it's not breaking below 51.45. So you do have at least a tradable low here to work with. That's a plus. So that actually gives you a nice level to work with. So if you do happen to break down below it, you're wrong. You can just get out and put your money to work elsewhere. Now, if you had bought Square at the beginning of the year and you've been seeing all these other names make crazy, crazy moves and Square's just sitting there back where it was at the beginning of the year, you're probably, kicking yourself in the head a little bit. But as far as Square goes, if you want to take an interesting spot here, it has to get above the daily 200. It has to get above that daily 200 hemisphere. So I'm looking for a move, at least a daily close above 69 for a push at least towards 77. And then from 77, we can probably talk 82 and then 90. But it has a lot of work to do. You bought it at 60. Yeah, I mean, if you're long Square here, you bought it at 60, so you're risking 6 to 9 points, and you're trying to take it back up to the upside to at least 90. 90 is going to be your biggest resistance level. So yeah, you got a good clean level to work with. I'll give you that much. You got a good clean level to work with, but I would just be cautious, just because the market is running and Square's not running. That's kind of a red flag to me. Why is this not moving anywhere when everything else is? What I would like to see also, as far as my momentum indicators go, I would like to see. I would draw it, but my drawing tools are kind of jacked up. Maybe I can do it here. Let's see. Yeah, I can just do this. If I hold it, if I get a up arrow here, then that would be a good, new signal here for me to work with, especially since you got this other momentum oscillator getting a crossover. I wish it was still above 50. That would be a little bit better picture here too. So first things first, I need a good clean level to work with. I need a good move above 69.70. Once we get that, that'll give me the check mark on price. And then if I get a signal down here, that would also, be a positive signal also. And then if we also look at that, as far as the weekly chart, you can see that we've had nothing but sell signals since November of 2021. And since then, we haven't had a new up signal on the weekly chart. So Square, she's got some work to do. I'm not gonna lie. So at least you have a good, clean level to work with. Is it going to be a frustratingly slow trade? Probably. And then if you want to put your money to work elsewhere, that's totally up to you, and I'll leave that up to you. But 51.50, yeah, that's when I'm definitely out and looking for something else to do there. We'll see. Let's see. Uber. Yeah, I mean, this thing, Uber just looks pretty crazy to me. You had this nice signal down here on the earnings, and since then you had a nice run up, a pullback to the daily 21. Now you're back up to the 41 level high. It's a little bit hard to buy it up here, but if we do get a pullback to the daily 21, maybe even reset up a squeeze, then yeah, you could have a good possible idea to push on up with Uber. So Uber, yeah, I would like to see a little bit of a pullback. Nice close here on Friday, closed at the highs, so we could possibly get a follow through here. 42.50 will be your next target, and then 45 on Uber. I don't want to see it a daily close below the daily 21. That could signal a shift in structure there, but Uber, this thing is looking pretty darn good. Uh, yeah, so it's decent. Let me see here. I gotta Norcrawl, you might have to elaborate what you mean on what you're asking for there. Uh, yeah, like I said, on Square, it's a good spot just because you have a good clean level to work with. If it breaks below that 51 zone, I'm not a player in it. No matter what the charts, or I mean what the underlying issues are. And if you, like I said, if you draw those lines there, like I said, Brady, it hasn't done anything all year. You're in the same spot you started at the beginning of the year. I mean, it's kind of a silly name, silly. Google. Yeah, you got this exhaustion candle, especially when it comes to the weekly time frame here. So Google, yeah, if Google does want to give us a pullback, great, but it's been so strong. So if we do get this breakdown below 120, sure, that we could get some decent put buying pressure, some selling pressure going on, and send this back down to 118. But yeah, Google, it's been so strong. We'll see if that weekly shooter candle does go in force. So yeah, if we do get a break down below 120, I'm looking for that move towards probably really that retest of the 50% retracement at 118. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, the daily 21 EMA, that's a it's a dynamic support zone. It is a nice reversion to the mean. Like I said, a big tech's been on an absolute roar. And if we add in our ATR bands, you'll see that this thing has been trading in the +3 ATR band, and you're finally getting that reversion to the mean. So this is definitely an interesting spot, and it's an interesting spot in general. Communication sector has been, impressive. Meta, Google, Netflix. I mean, they've all been incredibly strong. The communication sector is what really led the way to the downside during the downfall from the all-time highs, and now it's pretty much leading the way to the upside. And you can see here in general on the XLC, we haven't even made it to the 50% retracement level off the all-time highs. So XLC, if there's some more fire in there, then it can definitely continue to push up. And Google, this could be a pretty interesting spot as far as the daily goes. And then, of course, if we do get a breakdown here based on this outside, shooter candle here, then yeah, we probably take advantage of that. But I need to see it. I need to get that at least a daily close below 120, 121 zone to send it back down to at least 117.45 and retest that 50% retracement level. And then, of course, if we get a pushback down all the way to the daily 50 level, oh yeah, that's a buy for me. I'll be a buyer at Google down there. But you can see we've pretty much ridden the daily 21 EMA since the trend started back here in March. Yeah, it's been a nice trend. You had a nice squeeze uh, back in April, and yeah, you've just blasted off since then. So we'll see what happens here on Google. I think that'll be a good one to watch for sure, Brady. For sure. Okay, so talking about Golden Ocean as a high dividend yield. So just because it's a high dividend yield doesn't mean it's something good to get into. Let's see, what is Golden Ocean Goggle? Ah, Goggle. Okay. Yeah, high dividend yield. Now, as far as shipping goes, I had some data on this. I'll have to go back and look at it because I don't know it off the top of my head. Now, if I'm looking at this on a weekly time frame here, just the immediate observation. Let me see if I can get my pen to work here real quick. Maybe it'll. There we go. All right, there's your left shoulder. Here's your head. Here's your right shoulder. That looks ugly. Head and shoulder, knees and toes. You're right on it. Yeah, if you want to base off that, that's a weekly chart too. If this breaks down, yeah, you're looking for a move. I mean, whatever this measured move is here to here, that's pretty ugly. 16 to 7, so that's 9 points. Yeah, I mean that's zero. That's the full measured move on that. Yeah, Goggle, high dividend yield. I don't do too many. I don't even have any high dividend names. I do got some dividend aristocrats in my long term, but Goggle, no. And I got to look back at the data to see. We know that things are slowing down, right? Especially in Europe and especially in uh, China. Things are slowing down significantly. So, what is that going to do to your shippers? Probably not good. So, there's some macroeconomic waves you got to consider here too on Goggle. We'll see. I don't know their fundamentals. I don't know their paperwork, so to speak. But looking at the technicals, it's not a good clean. It's not a good. I'm not bullish on it at all. If anything, I'm going to look for an opportunity to short this thing to the ground because that's what the technicals look like. You got bearish declining moving averages. You're trading below the daily 200. I can see in a clear invert. I can see a clear head and shoulder pattern. And if we actually almost have a breakdown and a close below the neckline, and if that's the case, then yeah, back down she goes to $3. So yeah, short the rip. You can't seem to get above the daily 200. So if anything, I'm shorting it. Fuzz, look at AMD. I look at AMD briefly. We'll take another look here. This looks like a great pattern on the weekly chart. I would love to see this push back up to the 130 level. There's a ton of premium in AMD, and going into OPEX quad witching this week, it sets up for an interesting situation. So I would be careful with any kind of funny business, funny price action. You can, I know it sounds weird, but there could be some funny price action within AMD just because of the huge amount of premium that's going to be expiring with quad witching this Friday. So with that being said, though, if you do get a nice move above 127.42, you're looking at a move towards 130.80. And then once you get a move above 130, 131, then yeah, this thing looks like it wants to pop back up towards 150. And then just for fun, let's draw our Fibonacci levels here from the all-time high. So there you go. You got a nice weekly close above the 618. That's a bullish sign there. Bears aren't able to keep this thing at it, but that's what the 618 is. This is zone though. You could argue that there's still a battle going on around this key zone. So what am I looking for here? As well, as far as the day trade goes, above 127, 128 for a move towards 130, 131. But if we start to break down below 116, then you start to enter the gap filled territory, which would also give us a revisit of the 50% retracement down there at about that 109, 108 zone. So AMD, yeah, it's pretty interesting. I actually like this weekly setup here. So I'm definitely going to be watching AMD, probably more so than NVIDIA, but we'll see. I always got both of them. I got both of them up. on my charts on a daily basis anyway. So I'll be watching both of them. But I like this setup probably a little bit more than I like Nvidia's. I'm just kind of mindful of, market makers are at an interesting spot going into this week. Qualcomm, another semi name, QCOM. Qualcomm. I used to really like Qualcomm, but it's not performing in comparison to your other chip leaders out there. Qualcomm, you've had this. All right, so you had this nice little bull flag, nice consolidation, breakout. Let's see. Here's your nice little Darvis box. There you go. 111, 117. You got a nice little close here. Rejected off the daily 200, right at that 120 mark. Ideally, I would like to see this close above that to begin with. That would be the start, right? You do have a crossover here on the oscillator right at the 50 level, so that's kind of good. You got an early signal here on the thrust as well. Now, the overall weekly trend still seems to be lower. You haven't quite made a new higher high there. So for Qualcomm, yeah, you have to start, and you got to start somewhere. So why not start with a daily close above the 200? But if you're looking at this, well, 111 to 117, that's about a 6-point move there. If you have the measured move here, that would put you, let's see, 117 plus 6, that's 123. So you're looking for a move to about, right about here. Right about there. That's where, so you got a little bit. I think you're, if I take a look at Qualcomm and I look at AMD, I'm probably going to look forward to playing AMD or NVIDIA, just because it moves better and the trend is a lot more clean as opposed to Qualcomm. So Qualcomm, interesting, good volume here, nice volume off this breakout. So yeah, maybe look for a follow through move here in the next coming day or two. So we'll see. Qualcomm, it's not on my short list for the week, but it's definitely interesting. Yeah, keep an eye on that calculated and see if you can get a move to at least that 122, maybe even 125 if you get an over exaggerated move there. So Qualcomm, very very interesting. But if you do move back into the range, that's when you're wrong. So if you get a close back below 117, yeah, I'm not a fan of it. And then especially you don't want to see this thing close back below 111.60. If you get a close below 111.60, run away. Run away. All right. I appreciate the questions. If you have any more, feel free to let me know in chat. We've gone over an hour already, so that's where I like to kill things, because I know everybody's got things that they need to do tonight, and it is Sunday night after all. I appreciate y'all coming out and hanging out with me tonight. I appreciate the questions. I'll post my notes in my watch list channel for you to have them. If you're joining us on social media, I appreciate y'all so much. Thank you for taking y'all's time out of y'all Sunday night to come hang out with us. And if you have any questions, feel free to either leave a comment or, you can send me an email. My email is fuzz@stockdads.com. I'm always available. But all right. Thank you so much. And I will see you guys tomorrow morning for the live trading session, and we'll keep it going. Thanks, guys. Have a good night. Take care. See you guys tomorrow.